Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM in New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been with us from day one and make all of this amazing content possible. So thank you, Folgers. Also, thank you, Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for your sponsorship of our intro and our outro. Now, Justin is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which is available anywhere where you can find great tunes. Tonight, we welcome M.G Stephens, author of the Boogeyman Chronicles. I love it. We're going to be discussing unexplained phenomena, actually, which is like so vast. I think we could hit on so many things with that. But in order to tune in, you're going to have to go to one of our 8 platforms, which of course is our usual YouTube, which is UFO Paranormal, International Public Radio. And then we skip over to Facebook, UFO Paranormal, Outer Realm, Canada's Most Haunted, News on the Flip Side. I think I got everything. While you're over on our YouTube channel for UFO Paranormal, please don't just subscribe. Think about becoming a member, because there's a lot of content that's going on there that you're not going to see anywhere else. The hosts on the network have a lot of really interesting things planned: road trips, special interviews, things of that nature. I know with the Gray Zone Uncensored, it was never meant to be anything but a members only archive. So that's the only place you're going to find that stuff. So think about doing that. I think you guys would really enjoy that. I know I myself am a member. There we go. Looking forward to seeing what all my colleagues have to do. So, of course, you guys are going to notice that, Amelia's not with me tonight. She was under the weather. It's the time of year. It sucks. I know. And it's going to not be the same without her. But we're going to forge ahead, and we're going to I think, have a really good show, because I am looking super forward to having MG on. And here's her bio about the author. M.G. Stephens is a neurodivergent medium empath that grew up knowing she was very different, but not sure in what way. She started experiencing paranormal activity as early as 2 years old. Her mother was also a well-known psychic that worked with detectives in solving cold cases. She struggled to accept her abilities for decades, tried her best to dismiss all the terrifying encounters she was having on a daily basis. Oh, that's tough as a child. After many years of hesitancy, MG finally learned that her abilities could help people and begin to slowly accept and develop them. After much prodding from clients and friends, she decided to write a book detailing her terrifying real-life journey through the paranormal. Anything from ghosts to UFOs and unexplained phenomena, she will take you on a chronological telling of every encounter she and her family endured over 40 years in the Boogeyman Chronicles. She also has a podcast of the same names, which she delves into the concept of paranormal PTSD. Can't wait for that. She is 44 years of age and is currently living in LA, California, working in the film industry, and proud to say she was born and raised in the South. I love it. I love it. We're just going to wait for her to come on in. I see the, oh, okay, still waiting on 1 minute here. People are really struggling, guys. Bear with me. StreamYard is just a real piece of work right now, and my hosts do not get everything first time around. Okay. All right, here it is. All right, there we go. So she will be here shortly. Awesome. So, Christine Mowers, sorry if this is too off topic, perhaps you don't love your hair. Thank you. Me too, ironically. No, seriously, thank you. It is a lot of work, but it's been with me for a very long time. And it's funny when people point and go, "You're that person from those shows." I'm like, yeah, that's me for sure. You're not connected. I can't bring her on. There we go. Add to the stream. Nope. Not add to the stream. I will have to email her and try again. Showing. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Yeah. Okay. Showing you're not connected. Please try again. Oh my word. This is just one of those weeks, I think. Are we having solar flares or something? Because honestly, this has just been a week from hell just with SoundCloud, or rather, sorry, SoundCloud, but here with StreamYard. So, Jeannie, hello. Mumsy, hello. Tamara, hello. Zachman, hello, hello. Michelle Millens, Dolly, Adriana, excellent. Filling right up. And this is good. This is going to be a good chat. I think this is going to be a great conversation. A lot of people, who have these abilities, they don't know how to deal with it. What do you do if your children start having these abilities? Showing not connected. They will need to connect their mic and cam before you can add to the stream. Okay, let me try this again. It's saying your mic and cam are not connected. Did you give StreamYard permission to use it? Okay, let's try that. Gonna be one of those nights, people. So yes, Tamara, no, Amelia's under the weather, unfortunately, so she's not going to be here. But what do you do when you have a child who's exhibiting, like mediumship? Kids are natural little psychics. Hey, Mel, they're natural little psychics. They see things, they experience things. And what's really sad, much like animals, actually, is they don't know at a certain age how to communicate this to us. Clicking cam button won't come on. Oh, okay, so let's just do the voice. Okay, worst case, just do voice. That's weird, because I'm on. I don't know. Settings in computer. I don't even know how this is going to work, but I'm getting very frustrated. So yes, encouraging them. Here, I'll put these up. Encouraging them is definitely the way to go. I think that being supportive, absolutely. I was born that way, of course, as my child is as well, as were mine also. I think if you make your child feel really silly, if they start talking about imaginary friends or things of that nature, it really gets difficult, because if you tell them there's no such thing, you don't know that they're not actually seeing a spirit individual. So if you make them feel really silly or foolish, chances of them telling you if they run into some trouble is going to be slim to none. And a lot of beings, human spirits as well as non-human spirits, really look for children that they can bully, because they know when the child goes to the parent, nothing is going to come of it. And it's sad, even with animals, it's the same idea, because they can't speak for themselves. We've pulled attachments off of animals. It's really sad. Sometimes, things are going on in the house and nobody's having the experiences except for the fact that the pet is the one with the attachment. MG, I cannot at all. I can't catch you. Edit mic settings, echo cancellation. No, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this at all. I'm sorry. It won't connect you. It won't connect you. Oh my gosh. So I do apologize there, guys. Oh, hey, Christine. All right. So let me go work down I'm going to have to kick from the studio, have her try it again. I'm going to send yet another link here and see. I don't know. I feel terrible. I don't know what it can do. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, new link. This is going to be the whole show. Okay, try this again. All right, guys, sorry about that. So, Zach's comment, not sure if it's an ability, but I tend to make jokes when I'm around someone who has or is doing something bad and I don't know what they did. Shocking how my jokes have truth in them. I tend to wonder if it's a power of suggestion. That would be interesting when somebody doesn't realize that you're just like mind ninging the whole thing. That could be a thing. Tamara, I made it as normal as possible and explained that we are multi-layered environment. This is also true. I think sometimes if they're really little, it might be kind of hard to explain. Some kids might get it, some may not. Dorian sees things, and of course, I believe 100% that they're real. Oh, thank you. Ditto. Well, that's because you're very psychic. So that's easy. You can pick up on it also. StreamYard on the phone. No phone on StreamYard. They are working on that, apparently. Hey, Jojo. Guest is having a hard time coming on board. Cannot connect her cam. Cannot do it. You survived my blog show in a tornado. Yeah, I sure in heck did. That's a good show too. Not getting the guest. Yeah. Try your settings or restart computer. You will not connect. Okay, let's try this. I don't know. Trying what I can do here, guys, but worst case scenario, you got me. Anyway, so best night ever. Yes, it was. It was a lot of fun. Christine does a blog talk. You guys should check her out too. She does angel readings. So if you guys are looking to do angel readings, I guarantee you'll have a lot of fun. Hits it right on the head, just saying. Okay, again, sorry about that. I use a box to explain the inside and outside of the box as an example of different aspects of single space. She got it at 5 years old. The child has to be brilliant. So just saying, there's some kids that don't really know. Thanks, Christine. Love you back. There's some children that just don't understand. To them, they're really seeing. They are really seeing that this imaginary friend really is it's something for them. They're really seeing it. They don't necessarily differentiate between the fact that this may not be a physical being. Her computer setting needs to be looked at. That's what I said. Hi, Lisa. How are you? So, I think with that being said, we as parents have to take on the responsibility that if we're creating a foundation for our children, especially between the ages of, like, let's say, newborn 0 to the age of 5, where they're little sponges. They see everything, they feel everything. And I think maybe we need to consider in some cases that we include these building blocks. Okay, she's restarting. Okay, good. That we include these in her or their foundation, because I have run into a lot of issues where it's little children who run into trouble because they think they've got a friend. Now, whether they have a little spirit child, which is easy to work with, I think spirit children tend to be easy to work with if they don't want to move on. I've seen families basically just message me and say, look, how can we coexist with this little child? What is the little child looking for? Sometimes it's something as simple as bringing someone in to do the communicating for you and figuring out what this little spirit wants. Sometimes they just want to connect to the parents more than the child per se. So they still want to play with little toys. A lot of experiments have been done. You probably see it all over television. You read about it. And, you leave little teddy bears or little cars and they get played with, balls, things like that. That's no different just because it's a spirit child. Now, if a mimic comes in, you're going to run into a little bit more of a problem because they tend to bully and they tend to get aggressive, trying to control the child, instill fear, threaten them, basically threatening to hurt their parents. So then they become fearful. They just pretty much do what they're told. And eventually, over time, the activity starts to get a lot more aggressive. And then the control factor, where everybody in the house starts to get affected. Your child may start acting out. If your child is a school age, they'll act out at school. They don't know what to say. They're afraid. It really is terrifying. Christine, when people say, I've never seen a ghost, I remind them that they may not know because a lot of ghosts look just like regular live people. Kids do things or do see things more easily. 100%. I agree 100% with you on that. To them, they may not be able to define the difference. We have a vortex in our upstairs bathroom. Would you like that removed? Just saying, that could be a thing. We could do that. You should check it out. People drop in all the time. Good spirits. So yeah, right when you're on the can. So I am not working. Okay, hold on. New link. Okay. All right, let's try this. Try it again. There we go. All right. Yes, I would imagine people would just drop in a little bit of a, depending what you're doing, I suppose that might be okay. I'd be a little unnerved. Okay, Tamara, just because they pass doesn't mean they understand what has happened. I find mimics are always demanding and oppressive. They are. And oh man, I've seen some really bad situations. I've been brought into homes where tormented children are, oh no, still can't. I don't get this at all. I don't get this at all. It doesn't look like our guest is going to be still nothing. Gads. Sorry. Maybe I don't even know what I can do. Maybe I can bring her on the phone and put her through the mic. Hold on. Let's try a phone call from my phone, and I'll put you through the mic. How about that? Maybe I just have a genius moment. What's your number? Okay, let's try that. It might be a thing or two. Oh, hey, Joe.
Somebody's a genius, all right.
How's it going? You're on air with me. Go, Michelle. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, wait, I got double sound coming. Sorry, okay.
I know you're on air.
Did you walk her through the setup? She probably needs to set up her cams. Probably was giving her trouble.
Well, yeah, I've asked her to restart something, and
see, because you got that settings, and you got to go in there, and you got to find camera, and then you got to go down where it says camera. You got to click the little drop down and find your camera in there and click it. And once you do that,
in StreamYard.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna walk you through it right quick so you know what I'm talking about. Sorry, guys, quick lesson while we're on air. I apologize. So if you look down at the bottom of the stream, you see mute, stop cam, settings, share. Okay, you want the settings button.
Yeah.
So you click on the settings button, and then look, you'll see in there, it'll open up, and there'll be general camera. So when you see the camera, just click on it, and you're gonna go down further. It says camera again. Yeah. Drop box down gives you an option of what cameras they use. They also do that in audio. You can pick your mics. So more than likely, it's not finding the cam either because it's not plugged in or it's not selected by the computer. More than likely, it could be something else, but that's usually what it is.
Okay.
I can't promise you.
So
hi, everybody. How y'all doing? I know you've been on radio forever.
I'm just going to let her know here. So
I just came in to harass Michelle.
I know. That's okay. We're just having a laid-back show.
What?
So on StreamYard.
There I am. Trust me, y'all don't want to see me. I just got off work. I'm scary.
Go to the bottom.
I'm not usually my cute self tonight. I'm just like scary. No, I'm just teasing. I'm always scary.
You're never scary.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, what do we got over there? We got all kind of good stuff. OCR nice L. Ron Hubbard Award back there. Where's it at? Yeah, there it is.
Bragging again. Are you bragging? Yes, you are.
Nice award for the station, and the station gave that to L. Ron Hubbard for his birthday.
Hold on. We got. Are you there? MG? Nope.
We lost her. We lost her. Life is a beach, and then you get sand in your crack. Oh, did I say that on the air? Damn, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is it just me, or is like StreamYard completely being a real?
It was the other day. Now I haven't been on as much as y'all have been lately because I've been doing. Oh, we're wrapping up this contract, ladies. Just I'll actually be on the air again. Scaring
everybody.
OBE
is for the phone. That OBE is for the phone.
The phone has been probed.
I don't find anything here that is.
And hence, this is why we like Skype.
Okay, 1 second.
Can you hear me?
Oh my gosh, we can. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, you guys. So yeah, just let you know, I did the settings. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm literally hitting start cam. It's like a big like X through it, and then I hit settings, and it's still not working. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
it might be something with your cam on your computer. You might have to find a setting, but that's a pain in it. You know what to go
It's a
look for.
weird thing, y'all. I've been, I'll just tell you right now, I've been having a lot of tech demons lately, and it's really
Ooh.
creepy. It's like people that have never had a tech issue are now having tech issues because of me.
Oh no, this is not good.
People who get taken a lot tend to have a lot of tech issues. But anyway, did I
Oh
say
my
that
God.
out loud? Damn,
Yeah, I just
I've been
saw all
saying
your
too much.
chats there too. So okay,
All right,
this
I'm
is
out of here. If you need me, I'll be nearby. Just holler at me.
all right, darling. Thank you. That's why we have an amazing producer. So he gets on there. But I will take your voice. I will take whatever I can get.
Okay.
So
I'm so sorry. I got all dolled up, and I got my makeup on and all that shit, and now now
then here
this.
you are. Yeah, and you're in settings under camera, right? And it just won't do anything for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally clicking on it right now, and it just says USB video device. I unplugged it, replugged it. It's still not working. So if anyone has any, and I'm not a techie person, so if anyone has any advice, please let me know.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's almost like in StreamYard just not recognizing it or vice versa. But that's okay. We have you now. So welcome
Thank you.
to the show. We've really been looking forward to this because it's just reading your bio out to everybody, and it sounds fascinating. 40 years of like interesting experiences. Why don't you get us, started from the beginning?
Okay, well,
I
yeah,
mean,
I'll be 45 in June, so yeah,
right,
it's been about 40 years or so of just nonstop paranormal stuff, and I think it's really truly, I think it's the fact that I'm neurodivergent, possibly. My mother's neurodivergent as well,
right,
and so we tend to, a lot of, not all, but a lot of neurodivergent people tend to be psychic, for lack of a better word. We're sensitive.
right.
We're sensitive to everything, so why not the spirit realm?
I agree.
And yeah, I mean, I've read so much about it, and I've talked to so many people, and it is a thing. And so I started having encounters very early, and my mother did as well. I think my first encounter was, I think I was barely 2, if that. And
Right.
I remember a strange phenomena. I don't even know what to call it. And I even talked to Paul Eno, who, a lot of is a paranormal pioneer, and he's seen it all, and I talked to him. I said, what is this thing? And he's like, I have no idea. So I was like, oh great.
Wow.
So when he doesn't
Wow.
know, then I get scared. But what happened was, when I was like almost 2 years old, I remember, I had a very distinct memory of me standing in the crib. I was old enough to stand up. So I was standing up in the crib, and I remember looking up and seeing something. I don't know what I saw, but at the same time, I have very distinct memory of looking down at me in the crib. So I was in 2 places at once.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were leaving the body then?
Yeah. And it was strange because I wasn't astral projecting in the traditional sense, and I didn't die. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't, you know what I mean? It was just what happened. And I asked, Paul, and Paul said, well, it could be what he calls a shifting identity point, where in the multiverse, you just kind of split.
Right.
And so maybe it was that. But I noticed about a year or so later, I was a little bit older, and same thing happened. It was Easter. I had my little Easter dress on, I had my little purple tricycle, and I was just,
Oh.
going around, and my mom and my sibling were trying to get me to, look for Easter eggs. And I guess I was super cranky. I needed a nap or something. And but they were like, oh, let's, and I was just like not having it. But I remember the same thing happening. I looked up and saw something, but yet I remember looking down, seeing me on my tricycle. So
Wow.
yeah, that
And
was like the first
that,
thing.
that is crazy. Before we go any further, Dave Petrella is coming to your rescue and says,
Oh,
if you go under settings, apps, and notifications, let's say on Google Chrome, find Google Chrome, allow the camera and the mic. And apparently this is supposed to work. So settings, I guess on your computer, to apps and notifications, find Google Chrome, allow camera and mic. So I can't see you, but can you see our screen by chance?
I can see you fine. I'm
Okay,
trying to.
okay, because
Yeah.
I put it up on the screen so you could see what he said, just in
Oh,
case you have to follow it. I'll just keep talking while you're doing that. So that's like 2 years old. It is amazing to me that you would even have that experience. Like Dolly says, she goes, it's your first out of body experience and you're wide awake.
exactly. Yeah. It's, again, to this day, I don't understand it. And neither did Paul. And I asked several people, and none of them they never really heard of it. So,
Right.
but wait a minute, back to the tech question. So I'm at settings. I don't see any apps or anything.
Okay. Well, are you on Google Chrome perchance?
Yeah.
Okay, so go into Google Chrome. It should have settings where it should be able to find allow camera and mic. Is that right? Hey, Michael. Is that right, Dave? Customize control. I don't know. Settings. Yeah, settings. So if you put the little tab next to your face on Google Chrome on the right-hand side, you got the 3 little dots. Scroll all the way down into settings.
Yeah. I
Click
got
on
that.
settings.
All I see is you and Google, autofill, security and privacy, appearance, search engine, default browser, on startup, extensions, and about Chrome. That's all I see.
Oh, really? So, okay. So are you on Google Chrome?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go all the way to the right, you see where you have your picture? Do you have your picture up there at the very top corner on
Yeah.
Google Chrome? Okay. See those little 3 dots?
Uh-huh.
Click on that.
I did.
Okay. Did you go all the way down to settings?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to do it right now. And it says, Dave, I think you're telling us stories.
It doesn't really say that. Yeah.
I know. I think you're telling us stories. I don't see anything like that either. So, okay. Well, we're just going to have to listen to your beautiful voice and keep going from there. So, okay. So those are instructions for StreamYard on the phone. Well, if you're on your computer, then I guess you're SOL. Thanks anyway, Dave. So, okay. So you're 2 years old. You have this amazing out of body experience. So from that point on, obviously you're gifted, and this keeps moving forward. Was this something that was supported with your family, or were you told? We were just talking about this before you came on, or were you said, oh no, this isn't, you don't know such thing as having imaginary friends or anything like that? Like, maybe just take us from that point.
Well, so I was very kind of just clueless as to what exactly was happening, because I was going through life, and as a, autistic ADHD person, I'm, life is kind of hard because we're trying to pick up on social cues and we're not really good at that. So I was doing my best to pick up on that kind of stuff. But yet I kept having this weird sixth sense. I kept seeing things and feeling things and hearing things and knowing things and being so unbelievably sensitive as an empath that I was very bothered by everything. So I had this extra layer of difficulty in life. And so thankfully my mother was the same way. Exactly. She was a well-known psychic in the area that we lived in. And so, I did have a little bit of comfort in that, but I really didn't realize that my world of, these invisible weird, these weird entities, these weird feelings, these experiences had to do with her world of psychic phenomena. So I didn't know I could really go to her. So and I couldn't go to my dad and his new wife, because they absolutely, truly 100% did not believe in anything paranormal.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That must have been tough. Yeah.
I was isolated quite a bit, and I didn't really know who to talk to. And a lot of times, even as a little kid, I really thought I was going crazy. I thought, I'm nuts. I'm going crazy. I can't believe this. I just felt, something just pushed me, and there's nothing there, and I was a very analytical, sort of logical kid to begin with. If you don't see something, how can it be there? And so I was tormented.
Dolly says you're actually normal. I get, that kind of raises the question, because, we are blessed with more than the typical 5 senses. So are we normal? Is that how we're supposed to function?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I tend to think neurodivergent people maybe possibly. Well, you know what? This is the thing. I truly believe that everybody has that sixth sense.
Yes.
And I think some people are just more sensitive than others for whatever reason, whether, being neurodivergent adds a little something and,
Hmm.
like that sort of extra antenna that's up.
Right.
And I think through I really think through the years and our families and TV and people we're taught to not believe in this stuff. It doesn't exist, so we shut our part of our brains off to that.
I
And
agree.
I think that's very damning because we should be more sensitive and we're not you know
I would agree with you on that. Um, Christine says here, just for our listeners who aren't actually watching, but they're just listening, autistics being extremely sensitive and unfiltered are more in tune with the gifts that we all have. I believe that also.
Mhm.
Um, I have a niece who has autism who's just brilliant. just and
Yeah.
they're very nonchalant. She'll see something and she'll say, "What's that?" It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
well, actually,
Yeah.
what's growling? Well,
Yeah,
what happens
exactly.
when you come to Auntie's house? you know,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I now I just I mean, I don't now I know what it is. You know what I mean? And now so
yes.
I don't have to go, "Oh gosh, I think I'm going crazy." I just go, "Oh crap, there's a demon over there." You know?
Exactly. Oh hell, for real. Well, yeah, I think it's fascinating. It's really difficult as a child though when you can't go to someone who is entrusted with your care and well-being and say, "Hey, something's going on." So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're a pretty logical kid. You're trying to figure it out. So where do you go from there? Because at this point, you're sort of a target if you don't have backup, as I say,
Mhm.
and the experiences do they get more intense for you?
Oh God, yeah. Well, I mean, it all depends on where I was. If something was like where I lived with my mother, we lived on a canal in the south, and the activity was intense, but it was fairly benign.
Right.
It was definitely making its presence known to me. It would definitely, I would definitely pick up on stuff, and I didn't know I didn't know what they were. I called them monsters because I didn't know, but I knew they were like not. They unfortunately, like for some reason, they didn't touch me there, but I knew something was there. I could sense it. I could feel it. I could pick
Right.
up on it. The minute I went over to my dad and my stepmother's place,
Mhm.
whatever was there, whether I don't know if it was demonic. I mean, I wish I could go back, but
Right.
something there was
Right.
extremely malevolent, and this thing would absolutely torture me and pick on me and touch me.
Mhm.
It violated my space as much as possible, and that was absolutely terrifying because they did not. I mean, here I was, a little kid trying to
Mhm.
sleep at night, and something is touching me, physically touching me. Something
That's
is
hard.
whispering in my ear. I could feel the breath on my face.
Wow.
Something with long fingernails is grabbing my foot, my
Mm.
feet, to the point where I started wearing socks because I thought that might help. Um,
Oh.
and so, yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. And then I would jump up, run out of the room, go try to get my dad and stepmom, and try to convince them that something is happening. And of course, I was yelled at and told I was, being naughty, and you know
Right.
all of that stuff. So it was absolutely terrifying because you're not believed, and then you're sent back into the room, and you know it's more
Right.
torture. I didn't sleep at all there.
I feel for you because I didn't have that sort of upbringing. Like my mom, my dad was kind of like the type of person to say, no, the house is settling if something was going on.
Yeah.
Whereas my mother would be like, oh, and we lost our guest. Come on back in. Where'd you go? Wait for her to come back. There we are. Okay. All right. Add to the stream. There we are.
Oh
Wherever you
boy.
went.
Wow. Okay. Sorry about
um,
that.
no, that's okay. I would say like my mom was just really open about it because her side of the family, they were really open about it. But it's like Christine said, in the 1960s, nobody talked about this stuff in around that time. Or
Hmm.
I mean, tell you something, I was going through this in the 70s, 80s, and you still didn't really talk about this stuff. But my mom was always open to it because that's the kind of family she came from. Whereas
Hmm.
my father was like, nope,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
not a thing. So, you know, when they realize you don't have anybody to turn to, that isolates you and it just puts a bigger bullseye on your back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm the same way. Like I said, my mother was she was very sensitive. all her life. She had encounters from when she was little. And so she, she saw a lot of stuff, been through a lot of stuff. And she had been abducted at this point. She called it a dream, but she had been abducted. So, and my father, same thing. He did not believe in any of it. He was told, that no, this doesn't exist. And I went through it in the late 70s, early 80s too. And we didn't really talk about this kind of stuff back then. Now we've got shows and web, podcasts and web series. And you know what I mean? We've got, all kinds of really cool shows that now it's everyday vernacular. But back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't say paranormal there. We didn't really talk about that.
They didn't even use the word.
I know. And maybe the only people using that word were someone like Paul Eno and like the Warrens.
The Warrens were it for me. That's how I learned. But Adriana says certain cultures are more open about these things than others. Yeah, I absolutely believe that as well.
Yeah. That's my next book, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm writing a new book about how indigenous cultures are more the reason why they're more in tune is because they're not, indigenous cultures, when you're growing up, you aren't told by a certain age there's no Santa Claus, there's no more this, there's no more that, whereas in non-native cultures you tend to be told at a certain age, okay, stop believing in Santa Claus, there's no such thing as this, this, and this. And so you're kind of taught to shut down your intuition, whereas in indigenous cultures there isn't really that. There isn't a shutdown point, you know what I mean?
I agree. And they're taught, to work with earth spirits and their ancestors. And you go back into ancient cultures, the indigenous, even like, South Americans and North Americans, all over the world, the ancients actually embraced all that. They emulated it. I think it's just more, modern times since the 40s or 50s when media became a thing where we actually fear everything, or we're told to fear everything.
And too, it's Christianity as well.
Yes.
Christianity. Yeah.
Glad you said it and not me.
Yeah.
I won't stop.
Exactly. I grew up on both sides of that fence. And so I grew up in an indigenous household where, my, certain members of the family were not, there wasn't that cutoff point. We always talked about, earth spirits or ancestors, especially ancestor religions. Your ancestors pass on. They're there to help you. Whereas in Christianity, it's like, nope, once you die, you're going to heaven and hell. That's it, black and white. And so we are all, grew up in different, sort of cultures. And so that sort of thing, it's really where you're born and where you're raised. And so, Christianity. And then of course, by the 40s, we're actively telling people that they don't see UFOs because of Roswell. And, the military actively is telling people, no, what you're seeing is just, weather balloons and, oh, you're crazy. And, so that then starts this whole wave.
Well, you're questioning yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think people were, pre Roswell, I think we were more open to those sorts of things, even just a tiny bit more. But since Roswell and since the whole, weather balloons and no, you didn't see that, this whole disinformation, the whole, sort of like, no, don't believe what you saw. You're crazy, doubt everything. That sort of thing really came in. And so now it's like every time, and thankfully now it's different. But, for quite a while, for many decades, people were scared to death to say anything. And I still talk to people who are like, yeah, I saw something when I was 13 back in the 50s. Oh, yeah. But we were all told to not say anything.
No, it's true. It's true. Comments, Christine Moore's, my family talked about in the 70s. I was lucky. It was just one of those things that runs in the family. I was fortunate that way also, thankfully. Tamara says, I found a book as a kid in the library and had a grandfather explained it. Before I lived under the blankets at night with a flashlight. So the books,
that's one of the things that kind of clued me in was, I got a little bit older and I started to think, oh, wait a minute, and thank God, and I know this sounds silly, but thank God for Dan Aykroyd and the Ghostbusters, because that also, that also brought, paranormal into the vernacular. That really started to wake people up, and they said, hey, I know this is a silly comedy movie, but this has a huge kernel of truth to it, and so people started to not be afraid to start talking and start investigating into these things. And around that time, I started to go, oh my gosh, what if this is ghosts, demons, what something? It's something, I don't know. And so I remember one heartbreaking moment. I went to the library, and of course there wasn't many books in the
No,
early
you're right.
80s, you know, but I remember I did get a book about ghosts, and I showed it to my stepmother, who of course did not believe in any of this, and she immediately shut me down and said, nope, it doesn't exist, get out of here, this is crazy, you're imagining things. So yeah, I started to clue in probably around 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, but yeah,
which is the age of puberty, especially for young girls. You're going through that physical change, emotional change, which is supposed to actually entice certain entities as well, right? So that's sort of, it's kind of like a double whammy. Zachman says, Ghostbusters was one of my first introduction to the paranormal field. Like many of us.
Many people. It was, you know, I know it sounds silly, but it really is one of those sort of defining moments for a lot of people, especially going through this, you know, going through the whole paranormal thing. They're like, wait a minute, so I'm not crazy, you know? And I love Dan Aykroyd for doing that, you know, for really putting this whole subject out there and making it normalizing it, you know?
Absolutely. Tamara says, I think you mean, Tamara, Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall and Edgar Casey. Yeah, I'm an advocate of both of them. I just enjoy their writings very much.
Yeah.
I know for myself, having been through similar, with what you had done, my earliest memories are probably about 4 or 5, mind you, but having what I deemed to be as an attachment, but knowing what I know now, I think there's a very fine line. Like, you can let me know what you think, but a fine line between, let's say, demonics or attachments and oppression, and let's say alien abductions or being a contactee or experiencer, because I've come to learn that, you know, some of these extraterrestrials can exhibit a lot of the same characteristics, like growling and the long fingers and the nails, and it's been an eye-opening experience, you know, having this show, especially, and so many people from all walks of life coming on with experiences, and I'm like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty freaking versed. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I learn new stuff all the time. You know, I think the paranormal world is very vast, you know?
Yes, I agree. So now you're coming in, you know, as little MG, and you're having you've got no support. Your experiences are intensifying. How did you deal with that as a kid? You know, you're getting books, you're reading up on it, you're essentially trying to educate yourself and trying to see what you can do about this. I was in the same boat, just because I took that initiative. You know, I mean, my parents or my mom was really open about it, but it didn't mean she knew what to do. You know, right. So where do you go from there?
Well, I continued to suffer and just went along in life until my mother, in the sort of mid 80s, became a born again Christian. And like I said, I was on both sides of that fence, and I was kind of against it because I just didn't feel right about it. I'm like, I don't like this whole Christian thing, you know. And I guess I was a happy little pagan, but
still happy little pagan.
Exactly. And so, you know, and of course I returned back to that because it felt right to me. But but the thing was, you know, she became a Christian, and then, you know, of course I kind of reluctantly did so at 14, and it didn't feel right, but yet I was going along with it because I was chronically ill. I, you know, came from an abusive home from my dad and his, you know, third wife, and things were just terrible. So I came back to live. Yeah, I came back to live with my mom, and you know, became a Christian. I was like, okay, let's do this. And so I, you know, became a Christian, and it was helpful in its own way because I started to learn about the paranormal world, because I don't know if people really realize this, but Christianity, you know, that whole world of demons and angels, that's the paranormal. I'm sorry, but it is.
It is.
You know, and so, you know, healings and, you know, casting out demons, all that's the paranormal. So, yeah, Jesus was in the paranormal. I mean, he really was. So, you know, it kind of opened my eyes, and I started to see things in a completely different way. I was like, oh, okay. And I started to see how my mom and I when we got together, we were very powerful because we knew things about people. We sensed things. We were able to really help people with their issues. And I started putting two and two together. And of course, by this time, this is the early 90s, and the X-Files is coming out, and there's more shows about UFOs and psychic phenomena. Now we're talking. Now we're really talking about it. And
Right.
I then started putting two and two together around 14, 15, 16 years old. And I said, Mom, we're psychic, and I started like, oh my gosh, this is what we are. We're psychic, and this is just who we are. And so I started to see the entities for what they really were. It was like, okay, angels, demons, and then we got all these little other weirdos, running around causing trouble. And so that was, kind of like my sort of education. I, strangely through Christianity, I started to be introduced to the paranormal in a whole different way. And then I really started to, see things for what they were. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's something out there for everyone. I think every religion, every culture will touch on it in one form or another. I think some of them are a bit more extreme than others with the fear, literally they instill the fear of God into you to the point where how many spirits remain behind because they're taught that you go against one of the commandments. For example, you covet thy neighbor's wife, and you might sit here and think, I think I'll take my chances and stay here because I don't really want to think about where I'm going next. So I think some of it is pretty extreme also,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
double-edged sword.
there's so many different denominations, and I went through a ton of different churches, and some churches felt, kind of like, they really did have the spirit of God and love and peace in there. And they really did love people and want to help. And then you of course got the sort of crazy preacher dude that, has his own issues. And he's, and I knew all about some of these, things that these guys were creeping on younger girls. And then they would get up on the pulpit and sit there and start projecting and start yelling at people and, condemning people to hell. And it was just like, yeah, you need to sit down. Yeah, exactly.
Especially for a little kid who's got issues and visitors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just so rampant. You got the, you got the good and bad of everything. You got the good Christians that really do care and try to help people, and then you've got the people that are, not so good. They're full of the devil themselves. And they're sitting there trying to, saying they're Christians. They're not.
Yes. No. Oh, exactly. Exactly. I agree with you. Christine says, oh, it's a question for you. Most gifted people I've met all seem to come from or have some sort of past trauma. I don't know why trauma seems to open us up more. Do you find this to be a common denominator?
Some people, but not all. Again, not all autistics are psychic, and not all people that have trauma are sensitive. Some people, I think, I don't know. I think a lot of empaths tend to really process trauma differently than the other person, because we take things more, we absorb more almost. It's almost like we don't have that strong of a filter maybe. And so we just kind of, it really hits us to the core, and it really stays with us. And maybe that does alter our energy in some way. I don't know. That's definitely something to explore.
Yeah, she agrees with you. She says, absolutely. Zach Man had a crazy Christian lady that accused me of being Satanist once because I like to wear cigar skull rings. Oh, yeah, I could do it.
Oh gosh, I was talking to someone who we were talking about our past Christian trauma, and we were talking about how I knew this lady who wouldn't drive in a Taurus because it was a horoscope symbol, and she wouldn't eat. She didn't want her kids eating Lucky Charms because luck is of the devil, and silly stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with mindset. I think we can overcome pretty much anything.
It's to what we're told to. I mean, you got to realize people, when they become a Christian, they're kind of clueless as to what this new thing is, and then they plant themselves in a church, and if they have a bad preacher or preachers that some traveling preachers or whatever, where they have people coming to them saying, yep, skulls are the devil, skulls are evil, and Lucky Charm, it passes down all this weird little misinformation, silly little ridiculous things, all that stuff gets passed down. I mean, I had one person tell me, oh, tattoos are evil. because they misquoted the Bible, and then 10 other people believe that, and then they pass that on. It spreads, this weird sort of, it's almost like
Yeah. I think
yeah,
if you're going to quote the Bible, you better know the Bible. A lot of people don't do that. They
yeah.
quote it and they misinterpret it, or
Hmm.
I have to say, um, I assisted a family a few years back, and they were a Christian family. So I had a friend of mine who was a Christian minister out of North Carolina, and I asked if he would come on board because they had a team of people who did deliverances, and they traveled all over the world. I'd never worked with these guys before, so I really had no idea what to expect. And it was a really fascinating experience because they came in. There were two houses that were infected by the same entity,
Hmm.
and they came into just one house. And we're probably about 10 months in at this point, but I always work with the religious belief system of the people I'm working with. And she did this thing where she called it speaking in tongues. And I'd never heard it before. And I just sat there and I went, they warned me. They said it's going to sound like gibberish, but but we know what it is. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, again, it's a mindset that you believe in what you're saying, and the family is believing. That's all that matters to me. I'm
Hmm.
just here to bring you together and take the weight for a little while.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, after 2 hours, whatever it is she was saying, both places got cleared. One
Hmm.
remained clear, and one probably stayed clear for about 4 years.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, speaking in tongues is part of that fundamentalist thing
Yeah,
that, yeah, we
yeah,
did that, and laying on of hands and slaying of the spirit and all of that. So,
yeah,
I mean, and I'm not knocking Christianity at all. I have seen
yeah.
some things, I remember one time, this one thing I didn't actually put in the book. When I came back to live with my mom, I was a mess. I was
Mhm.
just traumatized. I was so abused for 6 years. I mean, I was a mess. And
Right.
I came back to live with her, and she one night I was crying. I don't know what was wrong. Something was it was just bothering me. And we had a roommate, and she was starting to pray for me. And she immediately, she's one of those where she did deliverances, and so she started to pray for me.
Wow.
And she and I both felt something. I we were both picking up on the same thing. Literally, there was a demon that was wrapped around my waist, and I could feel it, I could see it. And so she
Hmm.
went and got like a towel, and she started kind of, gently kind of hitting it. And she started praying. She said, "Nope, get off my kid. Nope, in the name of Jesus, get off my kid." And this thing jumped from me onto her roommate. So she said, then started hitting him with the dish towel. She's like, "Nope, get off of him too." So this thing jumped from him into, and
Wow.
we actually drove the church van. And so this thing jumped into the van, and we both saw it. And I said, "Mom, it's in the van." She goes, "I know, I saw it." And so she started praying, and of course the thing got, it went away. But I mean,
Wow.
yeah, my mom was so powerful. She literally would walk into the mall, a restaurant. It didn't matter if someone had something nasty on them, they would growl at her.
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
been down that road. I've been
Yeah.
around that a lot, actually. So, I
Yeah.
could see that. I could see that. But I love just how nonchalant she is about it. Nope, I don't think so. Buzz
Yeah.
off.
No,
You know.
she was so she did several deliverances on me because I had quite a few, just kind of nastier things on me that were, causing a lot of problems. And so she prayed for me. So I'm all for, whatever gets you there. If it's holy water and prayer and speaking in
Mhm.
tongues, if it's Palo Santo and sage, if it's burning white candles,
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
whatever it does. I mean, if it helps, it helps. And I do all of it, you know,
No. Yes.
I consider myself a recovering Christian, but yet at the same time, I do, throw that holy water around when I have to. You know what I mean? It's just it's all tools.
I think because it's just what what we are brought up with, and it's
Hmm.
instilled into us, so you kind of fall back on it. This is an interesting comment because I've heard that this happens to a lot of people who have near-death experiences. Wayne says, "I had a near-death experience after which I seem to be more intuitive and aware of ghosts and spirits afterwards."
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in near death experiences as well because I've read so much about this. Many people who have come very close to that point,
Mhm.
or have come to that point, seem to now have a thinner veil or thinner, filter.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows really why that is? I mean, is it because we've kind of reached to that point where we've, you know, we've almost shed our body, or we have shed our body to the point where we've been exposed to that sort of
Well, maybe
more
you just step
pure
into the
energy?
other realm. It's like
Exactly. Yeah,
exposing
something. I
yourself.
mean, I don't know really how to say it, but it's like,
Yeah.
we maybe we I think really truly neurodivergent people, psychic, whatever you want to call it, our bodies function on electrical current. And I really believe that we pick up on this electrical current from other people and
Hmm.
other entities as well. So who
Right.
knows, maybe when you die or almost die, you are more sensitive to that electrical current.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Here's another question for you. I work with angels, and it's usually Christians who condemn me, and I don't understand because the Bible is full of stories about everyday people being visited by angels. And
Yeah.
ETs, just so y'all know. Anyway, non sequitur. I have a friend who says she prays for me and my soul, which really hurts. Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
that is terrible.
Yeah.
I know people. So this is what I've been told by other Christians, and I understand exactly what she's going through and what she's talking about, because they say in the Bible that you are not supposed to pray to angels, and you're supposed to pray to God. And so if you work, quote unquote, work with angels, whatever that means, it's different for everybody. Then you are going against what the Bible says. And
Hmm.
I don't believe in that. I believe I believe you can talk to angels. Other people talk to angels in the Bible. Why can't you? Oh, why can't you talk to angels?
Hmm.
There's a really cool book called Angels on Assignment, and it was about a preacher, a Christian preacher named Roland Buck, who was visited by angels, and he was visited by some of the bigger ones, like Michael and
Hmm.
Gabriel and all of that. And
I've heard that
he
many times. Yeah.
yeah, he had full on conversation. So if he's not allowed to talk to angels, then what the heck? So I
Hmm.
would, not don't listen to the fundamentalist goofballs. They have their judgments and their weird little thought patterns and ideas that they've been told by other people. And so do what you feel is right in your heart. You know what I mean? If you are praying to angels, working with angels, keep doing it, and just say, okay, thank you for praying for me, take care, bye, and just go about your business.
That's right. Take every prayer you can get. Tamara says, I would say when you have a near-death experience, it removes the safety guards so you can feel and see more. That that
Yeah,
that
that's
actually is a good point.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who knows really what happens in that moment? You know what I mean? Because I
Hmm.
think I mean, my idea is that when we shed our body, we are, maybe that electrical, that the whole electrical system that makes our bodies work, maybe
Hmm.
that shuts down. And then when we come back, we almost get rebooted, and we then are more powerful, more
Hmm.
sensitive.
Right. I agree. I agree with you. Um, so while you're having all of these experiences, you seem to have a lot of darker energies that would seem to attach to you.
Mhm.
Did you did you not get into any grounding, or how did you get this to just stop or slow down, or because we all
Well,
find our own way, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, that's what happened when I became a Christian. I noticed, because I went back to that apartment, that one where I was, being whispered, my ears, someone was whispering. I could feel the breath on my face, and I was being, touched and all of that. I went back to that apartment, and interestingly, whatever was there could not touch me. It tried to bother me. I could still hear the whispering, but I couldn't feel anything really touching me. But it was still there. It was almost like it was like delighted that I came back. It was like, oh goody. But yet I had this sort of, I guess, maybe an extra level of protection. Maybe I did have angels protecting me. Maybe I did maybe the blood of Jesus does protect me. I don't know, but I noticed
Do you
that since
think
I became
mindset? You're
could
braver,
be.
you're
Yeah,
aware.
exactly.
Yeah.
It could be that I was braver. I knew what I was dealing with. When I was a kid,
Hmm.
it's whatever this thing was very cowardly, because when I was a kid, this thing could punch at me in the dark, and
Mm.
I was just spinning around going, what's going on? But
Yeah, that's
now
hard.
now I could see these things. Now I could feel these things. Now I knew what they were, and I could call them out. And that was the thing, being able to call them out was one of the things that I think really threw whatever this entity was. It really threw it for a loop. It was like, oh crap, she knows more now. She's educated. You know what I mean? Like when you're a kid and you don't know how to fight, and all the bullies can sense that, they pick on you, and then as soon as you learn how to throw a punch, then they go, crap. Sorry, I almost cussed, but oh crap, this kid knows how to fight now. And so you're less of a target at that point. And I think spiritually, I learned how to throw some punches. And so maybe, these entities were like, oh crap. So, because I noticed that since then, since I've been aware, since I've been more, alert, and since I've been more spiritually just sort of aware of what's around me and not afraid, these entities, I mean, they full on come at me, but they don't touch me. They can only get so far.
Right.
I think it's because I know who I am. I'm that little scrawny kid that was getting picked on, and then all of a sudden now I've taken some karate classes and I know how to kick some butt. And so
you're powerful, and you just don't give it to them. You're like, I don't think so. I think that's half the battle. In a lot of the families I've worked with over the last couple of decades, it really is about empowerment and education, and saying, empower yourself.
Exactly.
like take it.
Exactly.
You're a powerful being.
How many times have you seen a like say ghost hunters or something, where they literally say, okay, to the people in the house that are being tormented, you need to stand up to this thing. You need to tell this thing that I'm not afraid of you. Get the hell out of my house. I'm not scared of you. And that's kind of the attitude I have now. I'm very nonchalant, like my mother was. If I send something or pick something up, I'm like, get the hell out of here. I don't have time for this crap,
Exactly. I've always been the same way. I'm like, are you still here? It's just knock it off, But I feel like there's a really fine line. Like for those listening, it's one thing to assert yourself, and always assert yourself, always take control of your space, but just don't challenge, because when you start challenging, there are things out there who take those challenges very seriously, and they'll look at you and say, challenge accepted.
Exactly. That's the thing, the analogy is, don't go walking into a bar where there's a bunch of big mean dudes and try to pick a fight with them just because, you know what I mean? And I see people doing ghost hunts, and they're provoking, and it's like, God, don't do that. You have no idea what you're doing. And I know they're trying to do it for theater. It's they're trying to do it for, the producer says, hey, let's, get something going here. And so they're like, okay, so they start provoking, and it's that dude that walks into a bar and starts shouldering all the big bad dudes. You're going to get your
poking
butt
the bear in the cage.
Exactly.
It's true.
You're going to get your butt kicked. Don't be stupid. Be bold, be brave, be assertive, but don't be stupid.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I know, because there's a lot of people who do that, and then I'll get a message and say, something came home with me, and I'm just like,
yeah, I call it Elmer Fudd energy. Don't go in there with Elmer Fudd energy. I have a friend that frequents the Uinta Basin, and so the Uinta Basin, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And so I told him, I said, when you go out there with that Elmer Fudd energy, you're really poking the bear. You're going out there with this sort of energy of like, yeah, I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna prove you, I'm gonna film you, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And that energy sometimes drive things away. Yeah.
I demand you to show yourself. That's my favorite one. As Christine, Michelle has time in a coffin. Yes, I've done it. I'm fearless. So they tell me. Yeah. No ghosts with mess with her. Yes, some have tried. Christine Moores, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That's a perfect thing to say to an entity that obviously, who wants to go, to a dark place?
Exactly. Last call. Yeah. And two, a lot of the Christian-y sort of things, the deliverance stuff is when they're dealing with demons, they're always saying, go back to the dry places, go back to the, so they don't jump on anyone else, And I totally agree. Just get the heck out of here. I've had a lot of entities tell me, oh, well, I was invited here. I have permission to be here. And it's like, well, maybe you were, but I'm telling you to leave now. So, I've dealt with that a few times where, say there was an abandoned house or a property, and there was a bunch of kids came by, and they were trying to do a ritual, and they invited something and then they got freaked out, or they were doing a Ouija board, some sort of oracle where they didn't know how to open and close,
Oh, yes.
circles.
Yes.
And also, interestingly, older homes, like homes from like the turn of the century, you remember in the yes, remember the 1800s, the late 1800s, early 1900s, where spiritualism was very prevalent, and people used to do parlor games where they would literally have seances and they would invite these things and then they wouldn't shut the door. And then all of a sudden, decades later, it's like, oh yeah, the house is really haunted. It was because
sure.
Exactly. The dinner party from 1915
it's
brought this. Exactly. They brought
it's still
forth
going
something.
on.
Exactly.
I think the spiritualist movement was fascinating. The Victorians were just so intrigued with that sort of macabre. You had the seances. I mean, you look at, have you ever been to Lilydale, MG?
No.
It's the largest spiritual community, literally this side. They say in the world, but for sure this side of the world. It's in Lilydale, New York. And I've been a few times. I've got friends who live there. Some of the most amazing mediums actually live there. It was founded by the Fox sisters, and Harry Houdini spent many years trying to debunk everything that went on at Lilydale, seances. Abraham Lincoln and his wife were set to go there like regularly. It's a fascinating experience for those who are really intrigued by this sort of thing. But this went on everywhere. It really did. And they love to picnic in the cemeteries, right down to their greeting cards were just weird and macabre,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of strange because it was like, it's kind of like how it is now, but it was, 100 or over 100 years ago at this point, you know what I mean? And then like I said, there was something that happened where people were told, no, this doesn't exist. Maybe it was Christianity. Maybe there was a big revival movement in the 40s, 50s and stuff like that. So maybe that shut a lot of it down. And then of course, like I said, Roswell and, people trying to, I mean, there was a lot of government officials around that time that said, if people think that there's aliens, then, they're going to lose their belief in God. And so they were very Christian-y themselves,
No, I agree with you. And Tamara also makes a good point here with the Victorians had a different view of the dead and photographed them with their hair and the jewelry. You know what? The whole mourning pieces, I have a collection of them. I'm one of those. I'm one of those. So I agree with that because I'm not Victorian, but I sure dig it. Ouija boards. I'm going to ask you about this. So Christine says we had a high school cast party. Some of the kids got out a Ouija board, ran upstairs screaming, and escapades resulted in a death. Oh, weeks later, I always warn people not to use them. So what are your thoughts on that? Like for me, I don't think it just has to be a board. I think it's a mindset thing, but it could be a voice recorder. It could be a phone app nowadays. It could be a ghost box. It could be a pendulum. What are your thoughts with that? Because they really do get a lot of bad raps, and with good reason in some cases. I mean, not everybody should have access to them, like kids and toy stores.
Yeah, well, they definitely shouldn't be a board game. They definitely shouldn't be encouraged. That's a big no-no. But I mean, I have seen very well-trained mediums, trance workers actually be able to use a Ouija board effectively and safely because they know how to open and close those doors. Done it. Yeah, I mean, so in the right hands, it could be a very powerful tool. And I agree with you. Anything, because I believe that the spirit realm, the paranormal world, is all around us. Whether or not we're using a Ouija board or this or that, it doesn't matter. And so when we say out loud, "Okay, I so and so give this whatever spirit permission to do this," that's all it needs.
It's an invitation, right?
Exactly.
I mean, whether you're doing an EVP with a voice recorder, and I think the point is if you are initiating contact, you're inviting this in. Isn't that what essentially it all comes down to? Is that invitation?
I mean, look at all the people. I've seen a lot of people that try to invoke. They get a book like the Goetia or something. And they try to evoke, demons, and they don't know how to do it right, or they get in way over their head. But they don't have a Ouija board, and they just say some sort of chant and say, "Hey, such and such demon, I invite you to do this and blah, blah, blah. And it happens. So you
It
don't need a
does.
Ouija board. It's basically just acknowledging that spirit, that entity, and saying, hey, yeah, come on, let's go.
Yeah. See, again, I'm in agreement with you there. I've seen seasoned mediums get into trouble with spirit communication. I really don't think it's just so much the board. I think it's just that the board is easily accessible. With phone apps now, you can get like Ouija's. I mean, kids, you can get the Ouija board app. I had a
Yeah.
father come up to me and he said, "Oh, his daughter had um, some app on her phone, and all this weird stuff was going on in the house." And I'm just like, it clearly doesn't take much. I think it really is all about the intention, personally.
Yeah, it's your desire and intention. I mean, if you can attract good things by, manifesting law of attraction, you can certainly attract bad things.
Yes, that's what Christine says. I completely agree. Unfortunately, it's the people who don't know how to take it or seriously, and they use it as a party game. Yeah, that could end you. Few drinks and a few invitations could definitely end up
Yeah,
leaving you in a
and look
bad
about
way.
look about those people. I've seen, how many times have we seen on paranormal shows where people don't even have a Ouija board; they just have a cup, they have a glass, and they're
Done it.
using it as a planchette. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that stuff happens with that. So it's not so much the board. I agree. It's just that inviting. Those nasty entities are just waiting for you to be stupid and slip up. you know.
I agree. I think it's like as soon as you open that door, I don't think it takes very long for them to come in, and they go for the weakest link too. Okay, who's the crazy kid that just doesn't believe? Let's just follow this little guy home.
Yeah.
It is really, it can be really frightening, but that's fascinating. That I always like to ask people, what are your thoughts on it? Because some people die hard against it. Other people throw caution to the wind. No, it's good. But I like to always talk about, the whole mechanics behind it. Okay, one more with the Ouija board thing. My brothers and I used the Ouija board when we were younger. No good can come from them as far as we're concerned. Yeah, and we've worked with April, so definitely been a rough go. Christine, we lost a good friend. A spirit came and predicted his death, and it all played out as predicted. See,
Yeah. Well, I
that's
mean,
yeah,
they're in the spirit realm, so of course
yeah,
they know things. They're no
yeah.
dummies. They know stuff. They know people's names, and I'm very leery of, okay, let's contact grandma, and then the spirit comes through and people think it's grandma because this thing knows grandma's name and knows details of her life, and it maybe it's not grandma. Maybe it's something really nasty pretending to be grandma.
Do you think they read your mind?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think it can. I think it can read your energy.
right.
And
So it gets all the answers that
mhm.
you are expecting because it knows what you're thinking and it knows how you're feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And
See,
uh,
I hypothesize of that as well.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at, again, you into Basin and the Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, these people literally say, okay,
Oh
in
yeah.
their heads, okay, I'm gonna go here and set up a camera, and then of course nothing happens. There was activity and then nothing happens. So I believe whatever. I mean, I don't know what kind of entity is there, but I mean, I believe entities can definitely read your mind. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, they can jump inside your body. They can control you. They can manipulate objects. I don't put anything past them.
No, that's what I think people need to realize, that it basically really is a careful what you wish for situation, because anything goes at that point. You make that invitation, they have time on their hands. They can wait you out. They can wait years. I've talked to people who I've helped through the years, like, what do you think is a catalyst to this? Well, all we can think about is like 20 years ago, we used to board. I'm like, possible.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a long wait, but I won't say that it's not
yeah.
possible. Before I get to the next question, what I'm going to do, just because we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit, is I'm just going to do our station ID and sponsor ID. So for those who are just tuning in, you are listening to The Outer Realm with our guest, M.G Stephens, who is the author of the Boogeyman Chronicles. We are talking about her life, essentially, and what a ride this poor gal has had. So it's an interesting time. Everybody in chat is on board. We're all having a lot of fun. So please check us out on, right now we're on UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube. Subscribe, get a membership, really get the full effect of that membership and that channel. We've got all kinds. We're streaming across 8 different platforms right now. We want to extend a big, huge thank you and lots of loves to Folgers. Thank you for sponsoring us from day one and making all of this possible. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, for the intro, the outro. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween and sci-fi dark wave music. We love it. We get a lot of good feedback on it. So thank you guys so much for that. So back to the show. Now, you talk about abductions as well. So I'm not surprised. A lot of people in the paranormal eventually, myself included, company included, we eventually end up into ufology, and we start to realize, like, I had an attachment growing up that I had to sort out, and sort of that's how I learned about the whole mindset thing. But I also had extraterrestrial experiences, to which I have to this day, and I tend to wonder, were they one of the same? So do you want to lead us down into what your life was like with that sort of thing? Were you a victim of abductions or experiencer?
Well, my mother was abducted, and going back to the neurodivergent topic, I asked Kathleen Martin, who, is the niece of Betty Barney Hill, and she's a great researcher and author. And I asked her, because she was on my show. Unfortunately, another tech demon, the audio didn't record, so we have to have her back on. But
Right.
we had her on. We had a great show, and she was, rattling off a lot of different percentages and figures of different people who have UFO encounters or abductions. And I was really curious, and I said, Kathleen, let me ask you a question. How many neurodivergent people that you've interviewed? What is the percentage of their encounters? And she said, oh, it's a good 86%.
Wow.
Which is, it's a definite, sizable number. That's nothing to balk at. So
no, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as one and the same, I mean, she's even talked about how, she had, her family had poltergeist activity because they had such a strong tie with aliens, UFOs, and encounters and abductions and whatnot. She's had them. Of course, her aunt, uncle had them, and her other family members had them. So I was very interested in that sort of tie. But they have a lot of poltergeist activity. She said she had a boyfriend stay over at her parents' house, and the hangers flew out of the closet at him. And she then later on, when she got married, she said that she and her husband were sleeping one night. It felt like a cat was walking on the bed. And that's a very sort of normal UFO type experience. Yes. So going back to my mom's encounter, I'm not really sure if they were connected, but my mother swore to me she had a dream. And this happened, mid to late 60s. Way before we were all, even before Star Trek, this was, the Greys weren't really well known until about, the late 70s, when we had, Jacques Vallée and Close Encounters and Whitley Strieber's Communion and, all that stuff. So she ended up having this, what she considered a dream for many years. She said that she was, one night she went to bed, and she said she had this dream that she was on a craft, and she said everything was very smooth, brushed metal, very clean lines, no knobs, levers, no nothing protruding. And she said there was a very tall gray that was showing her around, giving her a tour of the ship. And she said,
pretty much.
she was, and she was in that sort of stupor where she was kind of in awe. And she literally, she said this gray put something in her hand, and she said it looked like it was kind of seal of the United States. It was like, it looked like kind of, I guess like the seal of the United States, where it was like an eagle with a shield and the arrows and everything. And she exclaimed to this gray, she was like, oh, we have one of those at home. And then the gray, which was wearing a very, very interesting blue tunic, by the way. This thing was, she was showing around the ship. She says she literally went into this lift, this sort of elevator lift type thing. And she said the doors opened like Star Trek. And she said she and this gray walked into this room. She said it was a very dimly lit room. There was a lot of no knobs, no levers. Everything was very brushed metal, very smooth. And she said this gray with its long skinny fingers ran its hand across the control panel and the whole entire ship powered up.
Right.
And it was then that she, snapped out of her stupor. And she then went, oh my God, I want to go home. She realized she wasn't home.
Oh.
And she started screaming at this gray, please take me home. I want to go home.
Right.
And I mean, she came undone. She then remembers the gray telling her telepathically, we're not going to hurt you. You're fine. You're safe.
Right.
We're not going to hurt you. We don't mean you to harm. She then remembers passing out because she was so freaked out. She remembers blacking out. She remembers waking up, sitting up in her bed. And she came to out of her stupor, and then she jumped up. There was a window above her and my dad's bed, and she jumped up and parted the curtains because she was so sure that there was going to be a craft out there.
Wow.
And yeah, for many, many years, she said, oh, that was a really weird dream, wasn't it? Because my mom was formidable.
Sure.
Yeah, nothing scared
Sure,
her.
dream.
Nothing scared her at all. And this dream
Right.
terrified her. She used to shake when she would tell me this dream.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And so it wasn't until, years and years later when she saw Close Encounters where she literally panicked and went, oh my God, that's what I saw. That's what I saw.
And it makes sense too, because with abductees, it is a generational thing. Chances are her parents might have been abducted, her grandparents. Like, this is something that they follow down the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't realize, but it's very possible that maybe you've been abducted.
Yeah, I did have an encounter.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I did have an encounter. Yeah. It was not as pleasant, or I guess my mom, my mom's encounter, I always called it was like Teddy Bear's Picnic, because she was getting this tour of the ship, and she was being, she was like, getting the VIP treatment, where on the other hand, I was about 18 years old. It was 1995. And again, my mom and our roommate, they were going to go into this church, and I really did not want to go into this church. It was a home church, and everyone in there was, hypocritical, and they were nasty and terrible and awful. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to go in there. So I literally said, no, I'm not going in. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I told my mom, I said, I'm staying out here. So she said, okay, fine, stay outside. Just be careful. It's not the best neighborhood, so just be careful. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. So I was standing there realizing, oh crap, I'm going to be out here for 4 hours or more. So I was like, oh man. So I was trying to distract myself, and we didn't have cell phones like we do. So there was no Instagram, there was nothing. So I was like, crap, what do I do? So I'm standing at this pond, and I'm in the South. And if you're in the South, those toads, when they start croaking at night, it's deafening. You can't hear anything else.
Right.
And so I remember looking up at the sky, and the sky looked very strange. There was no stars, no clouds, no moon.
Right.
And I thought, that's weird. And I kept getting these really weird rushes of fear and terror and run. Oh my God, you're in danger. And I didn't know what to think. I was like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden I noticed all the toads stopped croaking. Everything went silent. And it was like someone muted the planet. There was no sound, none. And all of a sudden, right where there wasn't any clouds a half second ago, all of a sudden there was this thin strip of clouds. And I remember seeing these 3 lights that I thought were spotlights at first. And so I dismissed it. I thought, my mom always said every time she saw a spotlight, she said, car dealership's having a sale. So I thought it was like, oh yeah, car dealership's having a sale, blah. And I ignored it. And as soon as I turned my head, I heard, look at the lights again. In my head, this was not me. This was not my thought. I turned and looked at the lights. They were inside the clouds. They were not pointing up. They were inside the clouds. And they were moving in such an intricate formation to where I just went, what? Wait a minute. Right. And I knew immediately this was not normal. And I debunked it. And again, this is happening within half seconds. And I looked at this thing and I went, what is that? And I heard, we're not supposed to be here, and we know you know it.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. And so
I won't tell.
yeah. So I looked at this
Wow.
thing and I said, in the name of Jesus, you better get out of here right now. And this thing sped up and took off so fast that if I had blinked, I would have missed it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you think that ET actually, do you think they're spiritual? Do you think that they're affected by religion sort of thing?
I don't really know that question. I do know that a lot of people will use the name of Jesus on them and they will
Yeah,
leave.
absolutely.
So I'm not really sure. I mean, I think there's good and bad within that, within the alien races. I mean, if you want to, get into it.
Right, right. Yeah, it's an interesting. I've often had people ask me that. I said, I don't know. I don't think I'm that up close and personal enough to sit
Hmm.
and ask. But it's always fascinating because some people believe, yes, of course. Other people's are like, no, not at all. We had a guest on, a couple weeks ago, and he's like, oh no, they're very, very spiritual. But I guess maybe it depends on the race because if they're spiritual, then they would be affected
Hmm.
if you say, in the name of Jesus Christ, that's it. Whereas there have been other people who have reported where, the grays have looked at them and went, we don't care,
Hmm.
essentially.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. But Christine, I think I saw a UFO in my 20s when I saw something with lights up in the starry sky. We were camping. That's usually where you'll see them. And watch as it darted around, moving in ways that our planes could not, movements like a bee. Fascinated, but thankful it was far away. So it's like, yeah. Well, I don't know. I actually enjoy seeing them, only because you decide no. It does not matter in his name, Jolly, I
Hmm.
don't know, or I'm going to say
His
his name.
name. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Dolly herself is a mega experiencer.
Hmm.
So, yes. But so is that the only experiences you've had, or do you think that that they've come around? Because sometimes it's like you have a purpose and they
Hmm.
work with you behind the scenes, especially if you're super intuitive. Because as Dolly says, ETs are advanced psychic people. If you're psychic, you will know them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've talked to so many people where they have, uh, you know, given them an agenda, and a mission, a
Right.
manifesto saying, yes, we're here to help humanity. I think there's a
Right.
lot of different alien races. I think there's some nasty ones, and I think there's some really great ones, probably. Preston Dennett says that he gets a lot of cases of people who are social workers, people that really, a lot of experiencers are social workers. They care about the community, they care about people in the world and what happens, and they seem to have a lot of really positive encounters with entities, alien entities that share that same mission.
Yeah, I love Preston. Actually, Dolly and Preston are very, very close friends. But yeah, Preston has been on the show a few times, and he's scheduled to come back because we just love him, and he's got always stories, always changing. But it was the first time when I met Preston, I had him on the show. It was the first time I'd actually heard about really positive interactions with ETs,
Hmm.
because we hear so much about, oh, you're going to get probed, you get yanked out of your bed through the roof.
Yeah.
It's freaking terrifying when
Hmm.
you think about it. It's like they're lurking around in your freaking the place you're supposed to feel the safest, which is your bedroom at night, your boudoir,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you've got standing around you, pop you out of your house. And meanwhile, it's like all these horrific experiences. And Preston is one of the first people who's actually come on and said, no, it's not all like that. In
Hmm.
fact, it's probably more often than not very friendly.
Hmm. Yeah, and two, look at the horror movies out there that do have aliens. It's all just terrible. I mean, except for
Hmm.
Close Encounters, but it's
Yeah,
Fire in the Sky. I mean, even Travis Walton will tell you,
sure.
they completely
Poor Travis.
they completely flourished that encounter that he had. He said, yes, he was scared, but they made it look very much more scary for the movie.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like Preston's version. Wayne says he had a dream recently where I'm standing in a dark place. I don't think that was a dream. Just saying, with a tall, thin female. She had huge blue eyes, pale skin, wore a long brownish sort of orange gown, and spoke so positively about life here. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous to
well,
think that there are not other planets. There are not other Earths out there. There are not other entity or
yes.
races. I mean, come on. There's so many galaxies out there. There's got to be life out there. And so people that say, "Oh no, it's just us." I mean, that's just ridiculous.
It is mind blowing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like we're a tiny little grain of sand on a really big beach.
Mhm.
So
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much
yeah.
out there we don't know, and to sit there and say, nope, nope, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know how people can be that definite.
No, I completely follow on that one. Totally. I mean, I've personally had many ET experiences, and more so now. I find I'm just more aware of them, and I realize how much they're actually around, and I've become quite comfortable with it. If you can say comfortable, I guess I am pretty comfortable with it.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of it really is, again, I think I attribute everything to mindset. Oh, there's a part two to Wayne's comment. She said that everything here was created for you. Went on to explain that this plan was made so that a race of beings that evolved out of the physical could then experience life in the physical. Oh, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
should write that down, write a book or something. I mean,
Take,
that.
take a screenshot of that, Wayne. So,
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I mean, if you have downloads or wisdom imparted to
all
you,
the
I mean,
time.
gosh, share that.
I keep track of everything that I get. It's at a point where all I have to do is say, show me,
Hmm.
if there's something you want me to see. All of a sudden, all my research ends up in one direction, and I'm
Hmm.
yanked completely into a different direction.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes I feel hands on my head, and then I
Hmm.
just wake up with all of this other information. So it's
Yeah.
actually kind of cool, people. You shouldn't
Yeah.
fear it per se.
No, no, not
I
at
think
all.
if
I
you
mean,
didn't lurk
yeah.
around in your bedroom late at night, it might be helpful.
Well, I mean, I've done that too, where I've been stumped on something, and I just said, "Okay, show me what the deal is." And within a
Yeah,
matter of hours, days, weeks, months,
right.
I see it in a book. I see it on a TV show. It comes to me. I hear a song. You know what I mean?
You kind of see it everywhere, and it
Yeah.
validates it. Oh, this must be what you're supposed to
Hmm.
be acknowledging, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
usually more in one place. Do you find like you're seeing the
Yeah.
same idea, but in different places on different platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it on billboards driving, and I've seen it
There we go. Yeah.
on license plates and bumper stickers. I mean, in the course of one day, you could get multiple signs.
No, yeah, that's how it happens for me. I've heard people say that also. So Wayne says, so are we just physical vessels for the essence of a highly evolved extraterrestrial race? Ooh, that might be interesting to know.
Mhm.
Huh. Dolly, chime in. um, so I mean, clearly you've had, experiences with the spirit realm, with the demonic realm, the angelic, extraterrestrials. Have you had any other things happen? Like, let's get into unexplained phenomena a little bit.
Um, Goodness, I don't know. I've had a little bit of everything. I had this one weird. I guess I would call it a dream. Maybe it was astral projection. Maybe I went
Cool.
back in time. Who knows? I don't know. But one
That's cool.
night, yeah, it was very strange. One night I went to bed and I woke up as a different person. And it was so real. I could smell, I could feel, I could hear.
Wow.
I was in a bunker of some kind, some sort of World War II type something or other. It was some sort of building. It was all gray and green, and I remember waking. I remember like waking up in this body, and I remember thinking, I'm not me, but I am me. And something said, find a mirror and look in it because you're going to see something. And so I looked in this mirror. I looked like I was thrown into like some sort of makeshift cell. And I
Wow.
remember I looked in the mirror and I saw my face, but I saw a man's face over my face. So I saw a
Oh.
man standing there, but yet I saw an overlay of my face, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And something said, reach into your pocket and grab something. There's something in your pocket that's going to tell you who you are. So I reached into my pocket, and there was a ripped page of the Bible, and it was like Isaiah 54 or something like that. It was something around there. But I kind of got the idea that maybe I was a preacher or some sort of religious figure in the community or something. But anyway, I was looking around very bewildered because I was like, okay, I'm me, but I'm not me. And I remember I heard through the jail cell, like the bar door, I saw a group of children being led by a couple of German soldiers into this room across the way. And these German soldiers were, these poor kids, a group of kids, they put these kids in this chamber and they shut this big, thick door behind them. Well, I remember I grabbed one of the soldiers and I said, "What are you doing?" And he jerked away and said, "This has to be done." And I remember I realized it was a gas chamber. And I came unglued. I screamed and cried and begged and pleaded and tried to grab the soldiers. And they said, "This has to be done." And they were walking away. As soon as they shut that door behind the kids, they were laughing and joking and walking away. And I was screaming for, I felt so helpless and hopeless. And I remember screaming and crying and begging and pleading to the point where I woke up with a thud. I woke up back into my body. I felt like I was dropped.
Wow.
I fell back into my body, and I literally woke up, sat up, and I remember I had a mirror in front of my, my bed, and I woke up and I sat straight up because the thud was so jolting. I remember I sat up and I looked in the mirror and my hair was soaked with tears. My shirt was soaked with tears. I had been crying, I guess, in my sleep. And that dream, I guess, it stayed with me all this time. I will never forget that horrible, horrible feeling I felt of just not being able to save those kids.
Wow. How do you even function after something like that? Like, that's horrific.
Yeah. Again, it stayed with me. It's still with me. It's still very, it takes my breath away,
Dolly says you visited your past life.
I think so.
It's funny because there's also another theory. There's a theory that abductees, and I learned this from my producer because he works very deeply with abductees and has one of the largest abductee sites, documentation sites in the world. And one of the things that comes up a lot is apocalyptic dreams or things that are really like traumatic like that. So, which I never knew before then either, but this just seems to be something that, experiencers have talked about, because Wayne is talking about that now. Apocalyptic visions. I've had dreams like that also. Very bad post-war landscape. I'm me, but not me. This is very strange. So yeah, we all got booted off Mars. It's like the red planet. We see red all over the place. But okay.
Yeah.
But I find that a curiosity. I don't know about you, but I do believe in the theory that when we sleep, we do leave the body.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like parking your car in the garage. You're going to sleep in it all night, right? So, you do we venture out? Do we go back and forth? In timelines? Do we work?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I mean, I'll tell you about my mother's encounter. So my oldest sibling was living in California, and we were living on the East Coast in the South, my mom and I. And my oldest sibling had just had their first child, and with their partner, and they were in California. My mother went to bed one night, not even trying to do astral projection. She could, but she wasn't even trying. And she went to bed that night, really wishing, hoping, praying, just so heartbroken that she couldn't see her first grandchild. Because my mom was she was such a mom and she was such a grandma. And she was just desperate to see her grandchild. She really went to bed with an ache in her heart. And didn't have a dream, didn't have any sort of, weird, she slept okay. The very next morning, my sibling calls my mother and says, "Mom, you were here last night."
Oh.
And she was like, "What are you talking about?" Your mom was like, "What? Come on. I was here the whole time." And my sibling said, no, Mom, you were here last night. So my sibling and their partner were asleep in bed. And my sibling said that she woke up, and all of a sudden she looks towards the door and sees my mother walking in. And my mother's wearing this long white gown with a white turban for some reason, but she sees her as plain as
Very
day.
stylish.
Yeah. She walks in and sees her as plain as day. My mom walks in, checks on the baby because the crib was at the foot of their bed, checks on the baby, looks at the baby, checks it out, and looks at them, checks them out, and then walks out of the room. And my mother has absolutely no recollection of this, but my sibling said that she saw my mother do this, and she was as solid as can be. She was really there.
I truly think that is a thing, and that takes a good amount of energy to do. My mother claimed, my father's in assisted care, like he's assisted living. He's got Alzheimer's, and she swore up and down. She goes, I'm telling you, he was sitting on the end of the bed. I was talking to him because, I was sort of like, I woke up, I sat up, I looked at him, and I could touch him, and he was physical.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, like in your mom's case, they're physical. So it's not just like having an out-of-body experience. How do they become in physical form?
That I do not know. I wish I had an answer for you, because that is intriguing as well. I mean, how many times have we heard stories about someone seeing someone and they were just as physical as can be? I mean, I had an encounter where my mother and I, we were sleeping in the same room, and we were in this one apartment building that was there was something not so nice in there. It didn't bother us directly, it couldn't touch us, but we could sense the presence. It was not good. And so I remember we had Advil in this one particular it was a cupboard. And so our roommate would come into the room, not at night, which was really interesting, but he always had headaches, and he ate Advil like candy. So he would come into this to the room, and there was a cupboard where he would get the Advil out. Well, one night I hear this rummaging, and I'm like, okay. And so I get up on my elbows, and I see our roommate rummaging through the cabinet to get Advil. And I thought, well, wow, he must have a really bad headache. And so I have enough light in the room to where I can see everything. I can see his mustache, his beard, his eyebrows, his eyes, everything. And I called his name. I said, hey, what are you doing? Why are you being so loud? And he, what I thought was he, turned around and looked at me and vanished into thin air. So we had a doppelganger encounter.
Right? Like, what the heck? So did you tell him that, hey, I saw you do this?
No, my mother forbade me to tell him right away, but I did tell him.
I think it would have been curious to see what he had to say about it.
Yeah, because I mean, it was not him. He was not sleepwalking, but yeah, he definitely was. I mean, I saw something, and so
him basically.
Yeah, exactly. And years later, I finally told him, and he just was like, "What? What are you talking about? That was weird." He just kind of freaked out over it.
That's crazy. Dolly says your real mind is your astral self. Energy is and can be solid. Huh. That's that. Well, that would explain it. We are electromagnetic conscious energy. You're able to gather. Yeah. It's still interesting. People don't realize how powerful they really are. I say this often because I come across it often, and I'm sure you will also have encountered this. But people, it's easier for them to think that they're under attack by a demonic entity than it is for them to think that they're projecting energy, psychokinesis, telekinesis, that sort of thing. And it's a very delicate thing to say, to somebody like, who thinks, no, all of this is happening. They don't want to think that they're causing all of this to happen, their families being tormented. I just will usually just, send them a link and say, if you see yourself maybe in this, that maybe this is a solution.
Yeah.
I try to be real delicate about it because it's not an easy pill for a lot of people to swallow.
That's true. Yeah. No one wants to believe that they're the cause of their problems. And sometimes that is the case,
Well, especially if it's causing, havoc in your home and your family's affected. It's not just you, right? Now it's about like all the poltergeist activity. It really
Mhm.
is like that. And,
Right.
poltergeist activity is affiliated not just with hauntings, but it's also affiliated with alien abductions, as
Yeah.
is sleep paralysis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can be terrifying. Have you ever encountered sleep paralysis?
No, I've never had that. I had
I'm
an
amazed. But
experience. I had one experience that people would like to call sleep paralysis, but I was awake. I was fully awake.
I was awake twice and it happened to me.
Hmm. That's interesting.
I know. So, because I'm thinking with everything that has freaking happened to you,
Mhm.
sleep,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
one time actually, I had come out of a sleep, and it was that situation. And I could feel the presence, and I'm thinking to myself, nah, there's not enough room in here for both of us. And I just forced myself to move. But the second time, I hadn't even fallen asleep yet. I was like wide awake, but I was lying down, and I was just looking around. I'm thinking, thinking over the day's events sort of
Mhm.
thing, just trying to nod off. And all of a sudden, I totally went. Only happened twice in my
Wow.
life.
That's interesting. I had experiences where I would wake up and I would lay down
Hmm.
and something attacked me twice. Physically
Oh,
attacked me. Yeah, well, something
wow.
physically. Yeah, I had like a little impish thing attack me the first time, and then the second time it was almost like a Voldemort type thing. It was it said at the end of the bed and literally sucked the air out of my lungs, almost killed me.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was
Wow.
yeah.
Isn't it like, oh my God, it's like I only worked primarily, um, like I said, a couple decades in malevolent hauntings or attachments, things like that. So that's why my focus of study and work is. And just because I don't have an issue doing it. A lot of people don't really know what to do with it. But it fascinates me how something can physically affect you, physically do things. Like, how does something that you can't see physically cause you enough harm and affect your health, almost kill you?
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
It
don't know.
sounds
Maybe it's a permission. Maybe there's something in you, a
right.
past life, or maybe someone put a curse on you. I mean, it could be a multitude of
Anything.
things that could have
Yeah.
given this thing permission to come near you. And like I said, when I became a Christian at
Mhm,
14, I noticed that whatever these things were could not really touch me anymore.
mhm. Do you know the statistically, I remember I read an article at one point, and they were saying statistically, the people who are the most affected by demonic experiences are the Catholics.
Interesting. Wow.
Buddhists hardly ever. I was like,
Oh,
really? Well, I mean, their whole
yeah.
way of thinking is
Hmm.
all love and light, and zen and out.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking the mindset is just the strictness of the meditation, the grounding,
Hmm.
um, and the Catholics seem to be the one that get it the most. Tamara, the hag experience is definitely sleep paralysis. Absolutely is. Wayne, I had paralysis in the wee hours. I was awake but couldn't move. Could only rotate my head from side to side. Could see but could not speak or breathe. Yeah, absolutely on that too. I remember that. Dolly, there's negative entities that want your energy, especially if you are enlightened.
Hmm.
And positive energy is the
Attractor.
tractor. Okay. You're writing quick again, aren't you? You're typing too fast for me. Yeah. So mindset. Yes. Yeah. I believe again, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
So I believe there are things out there that really want a piece of that good energy, even though the belief is that they tend to thrive on negative energy, which is why they're always creating this havoc in the space when
I
they're
think
in
they
there.
like to challenge you too. I mean, think again, the bully,
Yeah.
the little kid is just walking by, just minding his own business in his own world, in his own thoughts, and the bully sees that and says, "Oh, I can't wait to mess that up."
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
no, 100%,
Mhm.
100%.
They like to try your faith, really.
Well, I think it's all about that, testing your faith, your resilience,
Mhm.
giving you a false sense of security. You start to feel safe because everything goes quiet, and then they get you when you least expect it, and that keeps
Mhm.
you on edge. It's just like a cycle that just keeps
Yeah,
going, you
these
know?
entities are seem to be programmed, like, angels and good entities are programmed to be loving and helpful and protective, and the bad entities are programmed to be evil and terrible and tormenting, and that's just what they do. They're doing their job.
Mhm, and they get into, if you're already struggling, let's say, with depression or anxiety or addictions, they're gonna amplify all of that, so they're gonna make
Mhm.
even that worse for you. It's just like, honestly, that's they
Yeah.
hit every angle.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, you walk down the street of a busy neighborhood and you have to, say, if someone is nice and is helpful and smiles, you do that. And if, you see a sketchy looking person that's coming at you, you get your mace out or you cross the street or something like that. It's
Mhm,
the same with the paranormal world.
mhm,
We
mhm.
go about our lives not really looking at this paranormal world, and we don't realize that there's good and bad in the paranormal world, and we have to get our spiritual mace out, if you will.
No, exactly. It's all around you. You just,
Mhm.
how, I mean, I don't think life gets so busy, it just doesn't allow you to stop and really pay attention. Here's one for you. What is the hag experience?
I've never actually had a hag experience. I've talked to other people that have.
Mhm,
It's I mean, again, what is this thing? Is it a demon? I think the entities can take different forms. What was
mhm.
this weird Voldemort type thing standing at the end
Yes.
of the bed? What was it? What was the weird impish thing that attacked me? What was it?
Mhm,
I don't know. You know what I
mhm.
mean? But I mean, it's so
I
many people have had that hag experience.
I think with a hag is it's the feeling of something. It's an old folklore where it's a woman, a hag,
Hmm.
and she sits on your chest.
Hmm.
So the hag syndrome, how it's explained, is just something when you feel a heavy pressure on your chest and it holds you down in your bed. So
Hmm.
it goes back to Wayne, my ex-wife. You're terrible. but, but I think it goes back to that old wives' tale or the folklore. But it really
Mhm,
is a sleep paralysis thing where you feel like you're being held down in your bed and you can't move, you can't breathe.
mhm.
And sometimes people will say they feel like they have the breath being sucked out of them.
Yeah, you know what? I did have an encounter when I moved to Los Angeles. I moved into an apartment that felt okay. And I'll just
Right.
briefly hit on this, but
Yeah, of course, of course.
there was this neighbor across the way that there was this really great family. They had great energy, even though they argued like cats and dogs. They
Right.
they fought like cats and dogs, but they had really great energy. And when they moved out, this other family moved in, and they just had horrible energy. I don't know what it was with them, but
Right.
whatever it was attracted something to my apartment. I guess it was attracted to me. And this
Yes.
thing would not leave. And one
Right.
night I had a couple of dealings with this thing and tried to get rid of it. And one night my friend Joe, he was a good friend of mine and he needed to sleep on my couch. And I said, sure, come on. And so he slept on the couch. And I no sooner got into bed when all of a sudden he starts screaming. I run out to the living room and he said, something tried to strangle me. And it was not a hag per se, but it was something very similar. And so, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
That's terrifying,
Hmm.
honestly. I think that's part of it. When you're really intuitive or you're sensitive, even if you're not, I don't think it's a bad idea that before you move into another space, you do a cleansing on it or have someone come
Yeah.
in and do it because residual energy can sit there
Hmm.
for centuries
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it compounds onto itself. You
Hmm.
get people arguing, for example, that's going to have a build of some pretty nasty residual energy. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, you got to realize too, what the energy we put out and just emotions alone can just fill a room, and I know it can stay there because when I left my stepmother's place, my father and his second wife, my first stepmother, when they were going through a divorce, I was about 9 years old, and I was just utterly gutted from this because this was the first sort of stable family that I knew, and here it was being torn apart. And so
mm,
I was so devastated at 9 years old. I was just gutted and I was so sad and so depressed and so terrified. And just, that energy was all out, coming out of me like crazy. Well, I leave and I go live with my mom or my dad and then my mom. And then I come back to this apartment. And wouldn't you know it, I literally opened the door to my old bedroom and it felt like I was walking into a cloud, and every single emotion that I felt then, because the room was dark, it wasn't like I was visibly, visually triggered. I
Right.
literally walked into a very, very thick cloud of residual emotional energy. And that's when it really hit me. Oh my gosh, this stuff really does stick around. It hangs in the air.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think it's a good idea, even on day-to-day life, that if you're having a bad day at work, or you're having an
Mm,
argument with your other half, or
yeah.
your children, or your children are angry, bad day at school, just do like a basic cleansing, because this stuff, exactly, Dolly, it does imprint
Yeah.
on areas or
Take a salt
objects.
bath, get your Palo
Yeah,
Santo out, get your sage out, and,
sage your kids,
yeah, sage
you
the
know,
whole place, because I mean that
whatever takes.
stuff, whatever you want to call it, an entity, a demon, or whatever you want to call it, or
Yeah,
just bad energy, that stuff jumps from person to person. So if one person brings it into the house, or they start off, it jumps from person to person, and it feeds off of that, and it just grows.
right.
So cleansings, I
Exactly.
think monthly or weekly cleansings, for anybody and everybody, is so important. We really don't do that enough.
No, it's true. And I think it's a mindset thing also. I think
Mhm.
it will condition you to be in control of your space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you have a mantra or a scripture or a prayer, anything, just
Mhm.
say that. Just, you are in charge of your domain. You know what I mean? And sometimes just a little bit of positive energy will drive out bad stuff. I mean, I talked to Paul Eno. He was on my show,
Mhm.
and I talked to Paul Eno, and he said that there was a really horrendous haunting with his family, and he said, okay, you know what, positive energy drives out bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit around this table, we're going to have dinner, and we're going to tell jokes. And they had a joke book, and they told jokes all night long and laughed whatever these entities were. They laughed it right out of there. And this
Yeah.
entity, I mean, the entities could not stand the light and the laughter and the
Oh,
peace and the joy coming from these people, and
positive
fled.
vibrations, right?
Yeah, they took off.
Altering the frequencies. They can't. That
Hmm.
makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I regret that you had such a hard time getting on this show. It's like,
It's
oh
probably
my.
something on my end. I'm not a techie person. I'm
I'm
probably
here,
just,
yeah, so the system's up and running okay, but I would love if you would come back on when you get your new book and your,
yeah.
'cause it sounds like it's going to be absolutely fascinating,
I hope
and
so. Yeah. I'm talking to people right now and gathering some stories, and yeah.
I love it. I love it. So thank you for coming on. I wish we had longer because it's all like so interesting. So this is a part of the show where you promote yourself. Tell everybody what you have going on, where to find you, where to buy the book.
Okay, well, you can find the Boogeyman Chronicles on pretty much any sort of platform like that sells books, but mostly Amazon, of course. That's where everyone goes. I have my own YouTube podcast. Had to take a little bit of a break because I did have surgery, so I'm recovering from that. But I will start back. I have a lot of really interesting guests lined up, and so I just type in the Boogeyman Chronicles. And I am starting two books, actually. One is the indigenous perspective of the paranormal, and the second one is talking about neurodivergent and the connection to ESP. So if you have,
Wow.
yeah, if you are neurodivergent, and you have paranormal encounters or have ESP, please get in touch with me. Boogeymanchronicles@outlook.com. I would love to hear your experiences, and as well as indigenous people. If you care to share your stories, I would love to hear them and put them in the book. So
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, there you go. You have an open door here at the Outer Realm. So we would
thank
love
you.
to have you back sometime. Thank you so much for joining us. And please keep in touch. I'm looking forward to what you've got coming next.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, MG. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. It was a little bit rough going, but wow, it was definitely worth the wait. She was just awesome. And wow, that's one heck of a 40-year span of craziness. I don't think I went full on that long, but I can definitely relate to her. Absolutely. So again, thank you, MG, for coming on and sharing your story with us. It's just unbelievable. You're just a delight. And thanks to everybody in the chat room. Holy crud. You guys were just like right on it tonight. All of you. So thank you. Big thank you to Folgers. Thank you. Thank you, Folgers. I can't thank you enough. Huge thank you to Dr. Snick. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, I'm going to say it again. Get on over to UFO Paranormal on YouTube. Subscribe, but get a membership. There's a lot of great stuff coming. You guys are going to miss out. And of course, it's where you're going to find the Gray Zone. That show is probably one of the top shows for listeners on the entire network. Not kidding. It is just massive with listenerships. It's full of information. We handle such amazing topics, but you're not going to know unless you don't go on and check it out. And of course, our bubbly unit, Amelia, is not here tonight. As mentioned, she was sick. So we hope she's feeling
I got to
better.
make an emergency interruption here. Well,
Oh, do you now?
as soon as I stop being Frenched.
Hello,
You
little
see how
baby
dark
girl.
she can't see her on me.
Lola.
This weekend I'm adding 30. I think it's 31 pieces. If you're a member of our group on UFO Paranormal Radio, there'll be 31 things added. There'll be a couple of more gray zones going in, which Michelle was just talking about. We still got a lot of those to put up, but I'm going to put 4 or 5 a week up. So there'll be 2 or 3 of them going up this week. But I'm putting up some special stuff I did with Icon, some special stuff I did with UFO Undercover. They're not real long, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but there'll be a lot of them there to listen to. But anyway, I'll let Michelle have her show back. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm just signing off. So with all that, how can you resist? Go and check it out. Anyway, if you want to contact us because you're interested in being on the show, want to see someone on the show, or just have a question in general, we get a lot of those. Please, the only where, look, I'm tired. The only place you're going to get a response, sadly, because we have like all kinds of social media. I just have too many messages a day, so I do apologize in advance. But go to the outer realm contact at gmail.com. The outer realm contact at gmail.com. I promise you will get a response that way. So next week, more amazing guests. Never before here on the outer realm. We have Ellie Molina coming on Wednesday night. She's going to be discussing remote viewing and telepathy. Oh, that sounds fascinating. I love it. Thursday evening, we welcome for the first time Dr. Mary Helen Hensley, who's going to be discussing near-death experiences and healing. And just, it's going to be a really deep show. So I'm hoping you guys will be able to make it because we love having you in chat. Don't forget this Saturday. I know I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks, but between Joe and I, things have just been ridiculous. But this Saturday, it is the intention. How about I'll do that? It is the intention that we are going to have the Gray Zone Uncensored this Saturday, 5 to 7 Central, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And until then, I'm going to bid you all good night and have a fantastic weekend. All of you guys, be safe out there and just smile. We need more of that. So thank you.